Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and I've got some really fun new products to share with you today. I was just sent this roll of Abaca fabric from Paper Mart, and what it is this this textile that comes from a banana stalk, and it feels like straw, but it almost looks very gauzy and ethereal, but it's really rigid and stiff and very sculptural. So it's really fun to work with if you are planning a party and doing some decoration. Here is a mason jar that I just wrapped very simply, took a couple seconds with this material, and I left it kind of angular and sculptural, and it's just really fun to work with. I'm going to show you how to do that today. Also, you can die cut it. If you notice the little tag on there, that's die cut with my die cutting machine, with a manual one. I wouldn't use it in like a silhouette or a Cricut because I think it would dull your blade and maybe even nick your blade a bit because it is really rough. On that little favor box, I also die cut that heart, and I used some burlap ribbon, which is really popular. I'm seeing it all the time used in fashion, like to make brooches and like pretty hair barrettes, like rolled up into flowers and whatnot. And this burlap ribbon is very inexpensive. It's kind of expensive if you buy it at the scrapbook store, but you can get it at Paper Mart and it's a lot cheaper. Paper Mart happens to be our sponsor today, and you can check them out online at www.papermart.com. So let's get cracking on these projects. I know you're going to want to know how to make them because they're going to enhance your next party. It'd even be great for a wedding. So let's go to the table and make some cool stuff. Okay, here we are at the table. I have all my supplies laid out. I'm going to use some baker's twine. You know I love this stuff from Paper Mart. Paper Mart's got the best price, and I'm always pulling some off to use on a project. I have it in several colors, and this is the pink. I've got the burlap ribbon. You can have a nice close look at that. It's really soft. It looks like it'd be scratchy, but it's very soft, which is kind of weird. I thought it was going to be quite scratchy. I've got the these tags here. They're just the white unstrung merchandise tags, which I find I use for everything, and white can always be dyed. And I used a little of the shimmer spray that I showed you how to make a couple months ago using the Paper Mart bottles and sprayers. I'm using that to color them. I've got a marker and an ink pad, any dye-based ink, and any water-based dye-based marker is going to be fine. I have a distress marker in Worn Lipstick, and I have a Stampin' Up! Ink pad in Pink Passion. I've got a roll of organza ribbon with some gold trim. This is the Corsage ribbon in Golden Clear, also from Paper Mart. And I've got this, here's the favor box all put together, but here's what it looks like when it's all folded, so you can see it ships pretty easily. And this is just in a very, very pale pink, which happens to be one of the in colors for Pantone this year. So if you're thinking about weddings, you want to have a pink. This sheer, I think it's called Sheer Rose, is one of the most popular colors right now. It's going to be very fashionable this year. So keep that in mind. But of course, I think if it's your wedding, your party, you do whatever colors you want. And I usually use hot glue, but since I'm doing this video and my glue gun doesn't reach, I'm going to use glue dots today. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you is very easy. We're going to cover this plain mason jar with some of this Abaca fabric. And here's a piece. I actually just took this off the vase I just showed you. And so the way we had it, when I keep it square like that, you end up getting a lot of spiky sculptural details that are very modern looking. But if you want a little more rustic look, you want to round those corners. And I'm going to show you how to do that very easily. What I like to do is I will fold it corner to corner. So I kind of have like a triangle, kind of like you're folding a headband or a piece of origami. I'm going to fold it again this way. And then what I'm going to do is just simply cut an arch, and I'm going to freehand it because you know what? It does not have to be precise. So I'm just going to trim off these corners, and they're going to end up being pretty symmetrical because I folded it. So that's a little tip. Whenever you're trying to cut something and you want it to be symmetrical, whether it's the corners of a tag or the bottoms of like a bag that you're going to be sewing, fold it up so you cut both of the sides together and you'll end up getting a nice symmetrical curve. And I could even fold this one more time and borrow that angle. I do that a lot too because I'm too lazy to go turn on my die cutter or get out a compass. I'll just borrow the angles. If you repeat the same technique over and over again, they'll all work together. They'll look like it's meant to be. Now I'm not going to throw that away. No way. I'm going to keep that because I can die cut little hearts and flowers with my die cut machine, with a manual die cutting machine. Don't use it in your Cricut or your silhouette, but the kind you crank through, that's what you want to save these scraps for because there's such a really nice accent on things like these little tags. All right, so now what I have is a circular shape. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. And I'm going to center this in the middle. It's easy to find the middle because where I folded it up, it's going to be kind of pointy. And then you just gather up your edges. Now if you have a helper, this is perfect because it's a lot easier to do if you have somebody to hold this when you put the ribbon on. Get my little edges in there. Now that's coming up about, I would say 3 inches around the top. If you don't like that, you can cut it down, but I kind of like it, and what I'm doing is adjusting it before I tie the ribbon on so that I have a little bit of ruffle. So I'm just kind of like pinching it and moving it and spreading it out. Now if you decide that you really like this and you want to do a luminary, because there's glitter in this material, in this abaca, it's really pretty, but so it would be pretty with sparkles, so I would recommend using a battery operated tea light. But if you really want real candles, then make sure you trim this lower. Don't let it hang over that much, because then it's a fire hazard. You got a kid at the table, or you know, a drunk relative, and they knock over your centerpiece. You don't want your party to go up in flames. So I would stick with a battery operated, or trim that sucker right down. And if you're gonna have kids at the table, don't even risk it. Put a battery operated tea light in there, or some lovely flowers. So that is how you make the cute little vase. Now see, this has a little bit more of a rustic look because it doesn't have all the sharp and spiky parts. The original way I showed you was more modern. So it's all about the look you want. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to show you how to do the tags, because we're going to use a tag on that vase. And here is the example. So what I did here was I just used my spray, and I just sprayed this tag on the dull side, and I let it dry. I actually sped dry it with a heat gun, and I'm gonna set this aside because I've already done that. So let me wipe that off. You can see how it sheds glitter everywhere too. That material does have a lot of glitter in it, and it likes to shed. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you'll be able to see what I'm doing a little bit easier, because there's nothing worse than having to strain just to see what I'm making. And the first thing I'm going to do is, when I die cut my hearts, I actually I made a template. I just die cut a piece of paper so I'd have a template, and I want to use a small heart. But see, on its own, it doesn't stand out very well. I mean, it's pretty, but I wanted to have a little bit more impact there. So what I'm going to do is actually lay this template down and use the brush end of this marker. And if you don't have a marker close enough in color, go ahead and just use some watercolor paint. And I'm just coloring over the template. You don't have to be perfect. This is just going to make it stand out a little bit better. And then I can use a glue dot or whatever. I can use hot glue or liquid glue, but I'm just going to use a glue dot today because they are very handy. And if you do find yourself in need of a lot of glue dots, check out the prices at Paper Mart because they sell them in bulk. All right. Oops, just got to make sure I line that up really well. There we go. And then I'm just going to stamp out a little with love here. The stamp is by Stampin' Up. It was one of their freebies a few years ago, so use whatever you have. You could stamp thank you, you could stamp congratulations, whatever you want. Alright, I kind of stamped it on top of the heart, but you get the gist. You know what I'm doing, I hope. And just a little bit of baker's twine. Wrap it around a couple times. And I'll go one less so I can actually tie a knot here and put a button on there. And let me grab a little wooden button. I have this big jar of wooden buttons. I think they had such a really fun look to a project. And I'm not going to bore you with lacing it through, but I would just put the ends through there and tie it on and end up with something like this that I would string on right over my ribbon, just like that. Let me zoom out because that's way too close up for you to see. There we go. So then I would just lay that right on there, and you can embellish it however you like with whatever you have on hand. Alright, so that's the vase. That was very easy. Now the favor box is also easy, and what we're going to do for that is I'm going to show you how to fold this. Now what I like to do is, because it will come flat like this, I actually will pre-crease everything. I'll go in and I'll pre-fold it so it'll fold up really easily. And I fold these ends all down in. Because sometimes when you're trying to put it together, the bottom doesn't want to stay flat, but if you pre-fold everything, look at that, it just pops right in the way it's supposed to go. And then I will pre-fold my top flaps, and then these little flaps here, the ones that are decorative, will close by inserting one slit into the opposite slit, and then they make like a little flower on top. Isn't that lovely? They're pretty. Alright, so what we're going to do is wrap this with burlap. So since I don't like to waste, what I do is I kind of go around and I let it overlap about a ½ inch and I snip it. Now I'm going to just put a little, I would hot glue this honestly because that's going to bond really well, but the nice thing about the hot glue, if you use a low temp hot glue gun, you'll actually be able to peel that off and fold these boxes down again if you find that you had some extras or you didn't use them all. So that's really nice. So I would use hot glue, but for the purpose of the video I'm just using double-sided tape or glue dots. Alright, so there we have the basic box, and here is my finished one. And what I'm going to do is now wrap it with a little bit of our corsage ribbon, which is a really nice ribbon to have around. It just has a little bit of sparkle. This ribbon will also help hold on that burlap, because I know that double-sided tape isn't gonna hold it on too well, but I'm just using that for demonstrative purposes. We'll just cut off a nice, I usually work from the spool, but I'm afraid that might not work too well today because it saves me ribbon, but it takes me longer, and for the purpose of this video, I don't want it to take too long. I'm going to flip it over so you can see as I tie this ribbon on top to hold it. A simple bow is all you need. It's going to be pretty because it's got that little bit of sparkle. It's going to be very pretty. If you had one of these sitting at every place setting, it looks really nice because you get that sparkle. Alright, and trim off my excess, which I'll save for something else, maybe put it on a tag or something. And then I can simply take one of these larger hearts. I'm going to use a glue dot for that, although I do honestly think that the hot glue is going to be a little easier to work with. But, you know, sometimes you got to use glue dots. You got kids helping you, or you just want that fast result. And I'm also going to grab another wooden button, maybe not that one, that one's a little apple shaped one. There, that one's cute. And I'm going to put one more glue dot on there and stick it down. So you can see how easy it is to make your favors and your decorations for whether it be a wedding or a graduation party or a birthday party or what have you. So there you go. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in these lovely supplies I use, please check out my sponsor Paper Mart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com, where we make you look even better. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.